네, 특강 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 안녕하세요. 저는 필리핀 특강 담당을 맡은 아세안 연구원의 이유진이라고 합니다. 네, 오늘 특강 시리즈는 저희가 4회차로 마침 준비를 했던 특강이었는데 오늘이 저희 특강 4회차거든요. 그래서 저희 오늘 특강에 많은 분들이 와주셨는데 정말 감사하다는 말씀 드리고 싶고요. 저희 대사님께서 특강 시작하시기 전에 저희 아세안 연구원 김동현 원장님께서 대사님 소개하고 간단하게 저희 필리핀 프로그램에 대해서 말씀해 주시겠습니다. 원장님 모시겠습니다.
Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon. Actually I prepare in English and Korean, so I don't know if I have to speak in English for. I think most of our Korean students can understand English, right? Do you, right? Because today's lecture will deliver in English, so I hope you can understand English. Alright, so I'm, as introduced, I'm Professor Kim Dong-yeol. I'm the director of this institute, Korean Institute of Southeast Asian Studies, and we are preparing this Philippine lecture series thanks to the Philippine Embassy in Korea, because the Philippine Embassy provide a fund for preparing this kind of activities. So this is a Philippine special lecture series, and this is a last event. It is great pleasure and great our privilege to invite Ambassador Fernandez to his lectures. Probably some of you know that you have the brochure here. This is the introduction of the Filipino micro degree. So for Korean students, probably next semester you can enroll this program. We prepare so many benefits those who enroll this course. Okay? So this is a new course. We started from the last semester, first semester of 2025. So this is a second semester. And we try to promote this Filipino micro degrees. I hope also Philippine Embassy is quite interested in and supporting our programs. So probably it will be a good chance for you to study Filipino. If you learn Filipinos, you can also learn English. So you can catch two birds with one stone. Right? I will, the reason why I'm here, I introduce today's speaker, Her Excellency Ambassador Fernandez. So I will give some introduction about her. Ambassador Fernandez is a distinguished career diplomat with over 3 decades of expertise in multilateral diplomacy, regional affairs, and institutional leadership. Her previous foreign assignment includes posting in Beijing, London, Toronto, and Milan. At the Department of Foreign Affairs, she held key positions in offices of United Nations and international organizations, European Affairs, and Asian Pacific Affairs. Most recently, Ambassador Fernandez served as a chief coordinator in the Office of Secretary of Foreign Affairs from 2022 to 2025. In recognition for her exceptional and meritorious contributions to the foreign service, President Ferdinand Marcos conferred upon her the Order of Sikatuna with the ranks of Grand Cross, Golden Distinction, on 4th of September 2025. She was recognized for her strong engagement with Filipino communities overseas. Her exposure to the council work at the Filipino community in the United Kingdom, Canada, and Italy has allowed her to provide unimpeded attention to the Filipino abroad. Ambassador Fernandez holds a degree of psychology from the Ateneo de Manila University and pursued graduate coursework in industrial and organizational psychology at the De La Salle University. She's married to a fellow diplomat, Honorable Francisco Noel Fernandez, currently Director General of the Foreign Service Institute. And the couple has 2 children. So I'd like to invite Ambassador Fernandez. Please join me welcoming Ambassador.
Thank you, Professor Kim. Thank you, Eugene. And thank you to all of you who came here. Professor, these are my friends. So I think they came only because I asked them to come. Otherwise, this room will not be complete. But thank you so much for joining us here. And thank you so much for all the arrangements. To my kakabsat, to my kabagyan, naimbag nga gabi na ba? Gabi na. And good afternoon to all of you. It is an honor to deliver the final lecture of this series on Philippines and Republic of Korea relations. At the outset, allow me to express my appreciation to the ongoing academic and cultural collaboration between the Busan University of Foreign Studies, BUFS in South Korea, and various institutions in the Philippines, which has significantly strengthened the bonds of friendship, mutual understanding, and knowledge exchange between our 2 countries. I make special mention of Dr. Soon Hyung Chang, President of BUFS, who has kindly met us this afternoon. And of course, I think she's busy right now, Professor Kwon Soon-hee, Dean of International Studies, and of course our forever guide since we entered this building, this beautiful institution, Professor Kim Dong-yup and Eugene. Thank you so much. Such partnerships not only enrich the academic experiences of students and faculty, but also serve as a vital bridge connecting our peoples. It is my hope that this lecture will provide insights into the depth and the dynamism of our bilateral relations and inspire continued collaboration between our academic institutions, businesses, and governments, ensuring that the Philippines and the Republic of Korea remain not just strategic partners, but close friends and allies for generations to come. I take this opportunity to mention my colleagues who are with me right now. First Secretary Florinda Canay, please stand and make yourself known. And then of course, Third Secretary Reisha Olivario. She prepared today's presentation. So we will start. Yes. So today, permit us to share why the partnership between the Philippines and South Korea has remained so strong and dynamic over the years. First, we have long-standing diplomatic ties. Our official relations have existed since 1949, which gives our partnership a solid foundation. Then there's our shared history in the Korean War, where Filipino soldiers fought alongside Koreans, building a bond of trust and solidarity. Beyond history, we see strong political, defense, and security cooperation. We conclude agreements and work together on regional stability initiatives that benefit both nations. Our economic relationship is also thriving, from trade and investments to technology and infrastructure projects. And perhaps most importantly, people-to-people connections through culture, education, tourism, and communities. These keep our friendship alive on a personal level. The Philippines and the Republic of Korea partnership isn't just enduring, it is truly dynamic. The deep ties between the Philippines and Korea are rooted in shared sacrifice and a long history of friendship. This bond was forged during the Korean War, when our countries stood shoulder to shoulder in the pursuit of peace on the Korean Peninsula. Today, this historic friendship continues to evolve into a forward-looking, future-oriented partnership. But the roots of this time-honored friendship go back even further. The Philippines was the 5th country to recognize the Republic of Korea upon its founding on 15 August 1948, establishing a foundation of mutual respect and cooperation that has endured for more than 7 decades. Formal diplomatic relations were established on March 3, 1949, marking the official start of a strong bilateral partnership. Over the years, our friendship has been celebrated through significant milestones. The 60th anniversary in 2009, the 70th anniversary in 2019, and the 75th anniversary in 2024 last year. While bilateral celebrations traditionally occur every 10 years, the Diamond Jubilee of 75 years was considered especially significant for the Philippines. With the support of the Republic of Korea, we mark this milestone with a year-long commemoration, further elevating our enduring relations to that of a strategic partnership on our 75th year. So here we see our shared history. That is if we find there Lieutenant Colonel Fidel V. Ramos, our former president, rightmost, the most pogi. This is the 20th Battalion of the PEFTOC in 1952. Did you see him? Yeah. And then of course we have the next photo. There, do you see the person seated? Without reading, do you know who he is? Yeah, Carlos P. Romulo. So we were lucky that he was president of the UN General Assembly in 1949 to 1950. He advocated for the international defense of South Korea. So the ties between our nations were further strengthened during the Korean War. Beginning September 1950, the Philippines deployed the Philippine Expeditionary Force to Korea, PEFTOC, sending 5 battalion combat teams totaling 7,420 soldiers. This made the Philippines the 4th largest foreign troop contributor to the United Nations Command. So there were 22 countries, including Korea. And the Philippines is among the largest center of forces. Their courage and sacrifice in the fight for freedom and democracy not only contributed to the victory of South Korea and its allies, but also laid a lasting foundation for the enduring friendship between our countries. Among these brave Filipinos, I mentioned earlier, was Battalion Commander Lieutenant Fidel V. Ramos, who would become the 12th President of the Philippines. And then there were 2 others who would go on to serve as Philippine ambassadors to South Korea. This shared history of sacrifices intertwined with the other milestones in our bilateral relations. From the support of Ambassador Carlos P. Romulo, then President of the United Nations General Assembly, in the formation of the UN Temporary Commission on Korea, UNCOC, and the conduct of general elections in Korea, to the establishment of the diplomatic relations on 5 March 1949, and the deployment of PEFTOC, our nations have long been connected. In advocating for the deployment of Filipino troops, Ambassador Romulo remarked, "Korea is next door to us, and the outcome of the struggle there will have immediate and unavoidable influences for good or for evil upon our country." Following the armistice, Korea sent His Excellency Kim Yong-ki as its first ambassador to the Philippines on 19 January 1954. Later that year, the Philippines established a legation in Seoul, led by Minister Tomas de Castro, who was appointed Envoy Extraordinary and Minister Plenipotentiary. In 1958, the Philippines elevated its mission to an embassy, with Ambassador Eduardo Quintero serving as its first ambassador to Korea. More than 7 decades since, the Philippines recognized the Republic of Korea. Our enduring friendship is reflected in numerous expressions of close collaboration and shared values, a testament to the historical sacrifices and continued commitment that bind our nations together. So from the standing shoulder to shoulder during the Korean War, we have witnessed significant progress in our constantly evolving and progressive engagement in the political, security, defense, economic, cultural, labor, tourism, and people-to-people areas. Ours is both a historic and dynamic partnership with ties fortified by our shared values of freedom, respect for human rights, and the rule of law. Our relations with the Republic of Korea have reached an exceptional level, anchored by our forward-looking and dynamic strategic partnership. As allies in times of adversity and as partners in progress, ours is a relationship that has matured through shared values, mutual respect, and a common vision for a peaceful, inclusive, and sustainable future. The recent high-level summit between President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and President Lee Jae-myung last October 2025 reaffirms this trajectory, signaling both our nation's strong resolve to deepen coordination in key areas such as trade, infrastructure, defense, and regional cooperation. Notably, President Marcos's development priorities align well with President Lee's pragmatic approach to governance, a valuable convergence point that reinforces the strategic relevance and practical value of our bilateral ties. During their first summit meeting, President Lee Jae-myung characterized our enduring relations as that of a special friend. The Republic of Korea and the Philippines are very special friends, President Lee said, recalling the Philippines' role in aiding Korea during the Korean War. He also added that since then, we have maintained a very close relationship of cooperation and support, and we have mutually helped each other over the years. This would be an accurate description of our relations, the deep ties that bind, and a partnership continues to grow in depth and significance with each passing year. The Philippines and the Republic of Korea are like-minded partners that work closely together in many multilateral fora. As the Republic of Korea just recently concluded its APEC hosting, and as the Philippines looks ahead to its ASEAN chairship in 2026, we see genuine opportunities to deepen our collaboration and to help shape a more secure and prosperous region grounded in a rules-based international order. Our collaboration in regional engagements reinforces our shared commitment to advance cooperation across key sectors: defense, trade, infrastructure, and maritime security among them. The well-established dialogue mechanisms of a strategic partnership give us a strong platform to align our positions on regional and global issues of common concern. As incoming chair in 2006 of ASEAN, the Philippines recognizes that ASEAN is already Korea's second largest trading partner, and we are eager to further strengthen that relationship. At the same time, ASEAN offers an important platform for the Republic of Korea to pursue its aspirations for peace on the Korean Peninsula. The ASEAN Regional Forum and the East Asia Summit remain the only venues where the DPRK engages in dialogue with the Republic of Korea. Of course, we are also a dialogue partner of Korea. ASEAN as a community welcomes this cooperation, and we have been dialogue partners for as long as 35 years. Our defense and security engagements have transformed rapidly in the last 7 decades. From being brothers in arms, we are now partners for future forward and strategic defense modernization and procurement, helping each other advance national security goals for the future. The Philippines places value on our growing defense partnership with the Republic of Korea. We see it as a partnership built on mutual trust and shared strategic interests. Our acquisition of Korean-built frigates, patrol ships, offshore patrol vessels, and corvettes equipped with advanced weaponry and radar systems, as well as fighter jets and ammunition from several Korean defense companies, marks an important milestone not only in our own defense modernization, but also in Korea's role in supporting stability across our region. These have been instrumental in modernizing the Philippine Navy, delivering new frigates, patrol ships, offshore patrol vessels, and corvettes equipped with advanced weaponry and radar systems. Beyond procurement, our partnership includes technology transfer, training the Filipino personnel, and the establishment of local maintenance, repair, and overhaul MRO centers, critical steps towards building a self-reliant Philippine defense industry. Our defense engagements have been both meaningful and productive. They reflect our shared commitment to peace and stability in the region. President Marcos has consistently highlighted the importance of international support for our maritime interests, and we welcome how this aligns with President Lee Jae-myung's pragmatic and forward-looking vision for Korea's defense industries. The Philippine delegation to the Seoul Defense Dialogue in 2025 was led by Secretary of National Defense Gilberto Teodoro. This also had highly constructive discussions with the Republic of Korea and other like-minded partners in defense cooperation. As we work on strengthening our own self-reliant defense posture program, it is important to understand why partnerships with like-minded countries like the Republic of Korea really matter. These partnerships help us develop local capabilities, build stronger institutions, and improve the way we enforce maritime laws. Think of it as learning from a trusted peer while also sharpening our own tools at home. At the same time, we're improving our coordination across different government agencies so we can respond faster and more effectively to challenges in our maritime spaces. In our recent engagements in Korea, several promising areas for deeper cooperation have come up. For example, in the defense logistics industry, both countries are now exploring ways to go beyond the usual practice of simply buying equipment. Instead, we're looking at possibilities like a technology transfer, co-production, and more advanced forms of capacity development. This is important because it means building our own expertise while benefiting from Korea's experience. Despite our modern military acquisitions, PEFTOC veterans still hold a special place in our shared history and ongoing partnership with the Republic of Korea. Honoring their valence and sacrifices yearly reminds us of the deep bonds forged through cooperation and mutual support. Keeping their spirit alive inspires us to continue building strong defense ties and reinforces the commitment to work together in safeguarding our maritime and national security. Their legacy is a powerful reminder that true partnership is built on trust, courage, and shared values. Because the Philippines is an archipelagic nation, we also focus on improving maritime domain awareness and maritime law enforcement. That includes collaboration and naval modernization, technical support, operational training, and the systems we need to keep our seas secure. And when it comes to new and evolving security challenges like cyber threats, protecting critical infrastructure, and dealing with hybrid forms of conflict, we see strong opportunities to work more closely with Korea. These are areas where no country can afford to work alone. Finally, we're also looking forward to expanding the scope and complexity of our joint training activities. This helps our armed forces improve interoperability and strengthens the overall readiness of both sides. The Philippines and the Republic of Korea, likewise, consistently stand side by side in upholding stability and international law. The Philippines deeply values the Republic of Korea's steady and principled support for peace, stability, and rules-based order in the South China Sea. The Republic of Korea has consistently and clearly been in defense of international law, especially UNCLOS, and in upholding freedom of navigation and overflight. What truly stands out is how closely our values align. Korea's statements on incidents in the West Philippine Sea echo our belief that right must prevail over might, and that international rules protect all nations, big or small. This is why we encourage Korea to keep amplifying its support for the 2016 Arbitral Award and calling out nations or actions that violate international law. Such statements are not merely symbolic. They help strengthen global habits of lawful behavior and peaceful dispute resolution. As we look ahead, we see greater potential for both our nations to expand cooperation in capacity building, maritime domain awareness, and multilateral efforts that reinforce a stable, rules-based international order. In the same spirit, the Philippines supports Korea's pragmatic and phased end initiative. END stands for Exchange in Normalization and Denuclearization. The END initiative to foster conditions for peace and dialogue on the Korean Peninsula. We note the importance of not pressing or pushing for unrealistic goals. We note that denuclearization is not a primary mode to push, but that all three pillars of exchange, normalization, and denuclearization may be pushed side by side together with the goal that with normalization, denuclearization should follow. At the same time, we remain firm in opposing nuclear proliferation, consistent with our laws and international commitments. Together, we continue to promote peaceful diplomatic pathways through dialogue within the ASEAN, the UN, and other platforms for responsible regional and global action for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Our strategic partnership extends well beyond defense. The Philippines and South Korea share a robust economic relationship encompassing trade, investment, and labor cooperation. The Philippines Republic of Korea Free Trade Agreement, the first bilateral FTA for the Philippines in 17 years, has facilitated collaboration in energy and technology sectors. Additionally, we are exploring promising areas such as shipbuilding, digital transformation, smart cities, and critical minerals processing to enhance global competitiveness. Recently, we have also formalized a seasonal worker exchange program, further strengthening economic and human resource linkages. I want to highlight the Republic of Korea's role as one of the Philippines' most reliable economic development partners. partners. For years, the Republic of Korea, especially through the Korean Exim Bank, has helped turn our infrastructure goals into reality. Several key projects under the Marcos administration's Build Better More program have already been completed with Korean support, including the Panguil Bay Bridge in Mindanao, the Integrated Disaster Risk Reduction and Climate Change Adaptation Project in Central Luzon, the Samar Pacific Coastal Road 2 project, and the Laguna Lakeshore Road Network. These projects have made a real difference in connectivity, resilience, and regional development, reflecting our shared commitment to economic opportunity and inclusive growth. And there's more to come. One of the most anticipated is the 33-kilometer Panay-Guimaras Interlink Bridge, with design finishing this year and construction starting next year, bringing transformative growth for local communities and the region. If I may say, all of these projects were mentioned by President Lee to President Marcos when they met in October. The Republic of Korea has also become a crucial partner in helping revive the Philippines' place in the global shipbuilding industry. President Marcos himself led the inauguration of the Hyundai Heavy Industries shipyard in Subic last September 2025, and that facility alone is expected to employ between 7,000 to 8,000 Filipinos workers in these coming years. And now let us look at the Philippines-Republic of Korea partnership and its impact on food security and agriculture modernization. On June 11, 2024, Secretary of Agriculture Francisco Tiu Laurel Jr. and Republic of Korea Minister Song Mir-yung renewed the MOU on agriculture cooperation. This extends collaboration in agriculture development, market access, knowledge sharing, and technology transfer, giving Filipino farmers access to new technologies and global best practices. On December 4 this year, the Philippine President is scheduled to attend the agriculture facility in Cabanatuan City, Nueva Ecija, where Korea has established or has assisted in providing machineries for technical support on agriculture to boost farm production. For both the Philippines and Korea, putting food on the table is important. Supporting this, COICA has ongoing projects in Central and Western Visayas, helping local farmers improve productivity, adopt modern farming techniques, and strengthen post-harvest systems. Meanwhile, private sector partnerships like South Korea's HDKSOE, working with US firms Cerberus to lease part of the Subic shipyard, are boosting production of offshore wind turbine substructures and ship repair services, linking industrial growth with agriculture and energy modernization. Energy cooperation is also key. Following the October 7, 2024 MOU with Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power, a feasibility study of the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant will start in January 2025 to explore safe and sustainable nuclear energy options. The Philippines also supports Korea's carbon-free energy initiative, including renewable energy, hydrogen development, and carbon capture. Together, these efforts show how our partnership with Korea advances clean energy, strengthens agriculture, and builds long-term food security, all while promoting sustainable and technologically driven growth across the country. The Philippines and Korea share remarkable people-to-people ties that add depth and heart to our strategic partnership. The Filipino community in South Korea continues to shine across business and government, defense, climate change, academe, arts, faith-based organizations, and labor, shaping the country's multicultural narrative with dedication and excellence. Find yourselves there, maybe you are there. We are especially proud of Filipino students consistently recognized for their hard work and achievements, earning awards upon graduation and making meaningful contributions through the application of their coursework. We also continue to strive to nurture this ecosystem, empowering our 70,000 strong community through trainings such as an annual Filipino Leaders Camp. This year's Filipino Leaders Camp highlighted the Daejeon commitment, where our community pledged to work together as one in a united front. On its own initiative, the leaders prepared or submitted their own response, promising to lead the community in spite of different allegiances. The camp strengthens networks, forges connections, and shares best practices among Filipino leaders. It also reinforces the strong partnership between the Philippine Embassy and the community organizations, ensuring coordinated and effective responses during crisis. This year, we introduced the concept of servant leadership and agile leadership. And by way of communicating effectively, the concept of social media hygiene was also discussed. The Embassy looks forward to future initiatives that equip leaders with essential skills in security, preparedness, emergency response, and law enforcement coordination, further deepening the bonds that make the Philippines and the Republic of Korea both strategic and heartfelt. The Philippines will soon open a new consulate in Busan, its second office in South Korea, bringing services closer to our 70,000 strong Filipino community. Our Social Security System Office was also established at the Philippine Embassy in Seoul recently, making it easier for Filipinos to access government services without the need to physically transport themselves to the Philippines. These initiatives reflect our commitment to ensuring that Filipino workers and families overseas are never left behind. South Korea is currently the Philippines' #1 source of foreign tourists. In 2024 alone, 1.76 million Korean tourists visited the Philippines, frequenting destinations such as Manila, Cebu, Clark, Calibo, Caticlan, and Bohol. Visitors are drawn to activities like golf, diving, English language study, reflecting both cultural curiosity and deepening friendship between our nations. Increased presence of the Philippines in Korean culture and growing visibility of Koreans in Filipino media also foster stronger cultural exchange and mutual appreciation between our nations. Examples include artists performing in the Philippines such as Ryan Bang and Samo, Korean celebrities with Philippine roots, sports exchanges like FIVB volleyball and basketball friendlies, and the Philippines' inclusion in Korean soft power shows on Netflix such as Physical, Asia, and Running Man. Of course, for those who are as old as me, who would forget Shin Dong-pa, do you remember? Basketball player. And of recent past, Sandara Park, who grew up in the Philippines and had a revival and became famous again in Korea. These vibrant interactions go beyond entertainment. They help build cultural affinity by exposing each nation to the other's traditions, values, and way of life. They encourage understanding and acceptance by breaking down stereotypes, highlighting shared interests and celebrity diversity. Over time, this increased cultural visibility nurtures genuine appreciation and respect, strengthening the bonds between Filipinos and Koreans, and enriching the overall bilateral relationship, making collaboration in business, education, governance, and community initiatives more meaningful and grounded in mutual trust. As we are discussing people-to-people ties, I also want to take this opportunity to shine a light on the hardworking overseas Filipino workers that form a core of our community here and how they contribute to our enduring and dynamic partnership. Since 2004, the Philippines has proudly deployed Filipino workers to Korea, and we continue to recognize the vital role that these workers play, not only in supporting the growth of South Korea's small and medium-sized manufacturing companies, but also in improving their own lives through fair, transparent, and orderly government-to-government recruitment and employment practices. A great example is the Filipino welders at the HJ Shipbuilding and Construction in Yeongdo Shipyard, Busan. HJSC is currently the largest direct employer of Filipinos in Korea's shipbuilding industry. Since March 2023, the company has employed 201 skilled Filipino welders, making up 36% of its field workforce, whose expertise is critical to the hull protection team. Their hard work and dedication highlight the important contributions of Filipino professionals to Korea's industries and showcase the strength of our workforce overseas. I have shared with you a brief overview of our relations. You might now ask, what's next? What are the plans of the ambassador or the embassy? And what are our plans overall in nurturing these dynamic relations? Over the next 5 to 10 years, we aim to build on the strong momentum of our strategic partnership with Korea. We are placing renewed focus on emerging areas of cooperation, including political consultations and maritime dialogue, also defense, shipbuilding, energy, creative industries, digitalization, smart agriculture supply chain strengthening, and collaboration on rare minerals. We will continue to build close cooperation on consular matters in order to protect both our nationals here in Korea and Koreans who are living in the Philippines. At the same time, we will continue to expand our strategic partnership and strengthen the free trade agreement. All of these efforts are aimed at ensuring that the Philippines-Korea strategic partnership remains dynamic, forward-looking, and closely attuned to the evolving needs of our peoples. To take a recap on today's presentation, let's now go back to the core question we raised in the beginning. Why is our partnership enduring and dynamic? The answer lies in the unique way our partnership has evolved and matured over the decades, from standing shoulder to shoulder during the war to now being partners for peace and prosperity. The bedrock of our relations is our shared history, most notably the sacrifices of Filipino troops during the Korean War, which exemplify our valor and commitment. Today, this strategic partnership is nurtured by and thrives through strong political ties, economic collaboration, and social-cultural initiatives. At the heart of this friendship are our people-to-people connections. Filipino workers, students, and communities in South Korea, together with Korean friends and partners interested in the Philippines, create channels for mutual understanding, cultural exchange, and academic collaboration. These personal and community connections ensure that our partnership is not static. It continues to grow and adapt, meeting the evolving needs of both nations in a fast-changing world. Before I end my lecture, I want to pose a challenge for the students, the teachers, and community members of the Busan University School of Foreign Studies. The Philippines and the Republic of Korea share a long-standing and dynamic partnership built on history, respect, and strong people-to-people ties. As the next next generation of leaders and professionals, you have the onus and the power to keep this partnership alive. We ask ourselves, how can we contribute through culture, learning, innovation, community? How do we make this bond even stronger? We think of one concrete action you can take, and I propose several: cultural and academic exchange, share Filipino or Korean culture, language, or arts with your peers; economic and innovation collaboration, joint projects, research, or ventures that benefit both nations; community engagement and advocacy, support Filipino communities in Korea, or strengthen connections with Korean friends back home. Your actions, however small, help ensure this partnership remains vibrant and enduring. Your footprints are important. This ends my lecture, so please follow us on our social media account, and do not hesitate to reach out to us if you need our help. And thank you for your time. And I now open the floor to questions. I hope there will be no questions.
Maybe just a comment. No, it's okay. I'm used to speak loud in class. Thank you, Ambassador, for gracing this time with us today. And we appreciate for you to travel from Seoul to here. And it's quite long travel. But I think on top of our relationship with South Korea, we have a responsibility, I think, to deepen our economic relations, because I'm doing a research and I've been involved with Korea-ASEAN relations, not only on people-to-people exchange, from the shift from New Southern Policy to New Southern Policy Plus, and then Northern Southern Policy. But what saddens me is that the Philippines is not a destination for Korean investments. If you're going to look at the share of the Philippines from South Korea, Vietnam and Singapore gets the 80% of that share of investments. The Philippines, it's just a minuscule, a very small share. I hope that we can do something about that. Maybe we don't have to compete with Vietnam. We don't need to compete with Singapore because they have all the advantages, the competitive advantages. Maybe we can find our niche on what else we can get from South Korea, because there's a lot of industries in Korea that we're not top yet, and probably we can have that opportunity that we can bring into the Philippines, because really it's really sad. Out of the 10 countries of Southeast Asia, the 8 countries is dividing the remaining 20% of that. And because of the strong and deep relationship of South Korea with the Philippines, we deserve more. I think we deserve better. I think a bigger share or a pie of that investments from South Korea, because really there's a lot of opportunities that is installed for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Geoffrey Fernandez. I agree with you 100%, 110% maybe. And I think in all of that, how did Vietnam achieve that? How did Singapore achieve that when it's only a country of about 5 million at this time, when we're 110 million and we're a large country compared to Singapore? I think we should also make conditions right in the Philippines in order to attract more investors. It's always good to say people-to-people relations, we're friends. Professor Kim, for example, stayed in the Philippines for 9 years. Friendship is good, but we need to work harder to make our friends come back, and to make our friends say, I can trust more than myself. I can trust also my resources and bring it to the Philippines. So it takes a lot of, all of us to do this. Maybe at the local government level we should start, and then all the way up to national, and on the reverse from national down. So I think that's a very valid comment, and very sad but true. On that, I can only say we're trying to do our best. In the embassy, we have a whole of government approach, for example. We have the trade office, the agriculture, the defense, tourism. We also have Pag-ibig. We also have SSS, and of course the Department of Foreign Affairs. Did I miss any? Of course, we have the labor offices, Department of Migrant Workers, and Welfare Administration. But we can only do so much. We look at some countries where the system is different from ours. In the case of Vietnam, it's socialist up to now, and socialist with enterprising policies. Can we do the same? Can we sort of use that as a template by which we can entice more investors to come to the Philippines? Are there other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Cecile Huang, and currently I am teaching the Filipino language, which is under the micro program Filipino language here in BFS. My question is, in line with strengthening the Korean and Philippine ties through cultural and language exchange, I was wondering, what initiatives or programs can the Philippine Embassy explore with Korean universities to promote language study, Filipino language study among Korean students? And yes, so what kind of programs can be explored?
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Wang. I think first starters, we should continue the program that was started already by the embassy with the BUFS, the micro course that was shared a while ago by Professor Kim. More than that, we also have to we also have to ask what's in it for Koreans to learn about our culture. When in fact Koreans are very much steep into sharing their own culture with us. You know how soft power has worked so much in favor of Korea by way of their promoting K-drama, K-pop, K-culture, and now K-food in New York. So are we in a position to share the same to Koreans? Are we in a position to build upon what Korea has started for the whole world to see? In such a case, the Philippine Embassy is working closely with the Department of Tourism, the Film Development Council of the Philippines, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, the National NCCA for Culture and the Arts, as well as other private organizations and institutions. We're brainstorming what do we bring in here, what can Koreans do when they visit the Philippines. And I'm sure outside of this room, outside BUFS, there are other universities that have strong bonds, strong kinship with other institutions in Korea. So, for example, every week we have quite a lot of visitors coming over. These are local governments, wanting to learn more about Korea. Number one, Korea is very near. Number one, it has a lot of flights coming here, even red flights. And those few days that they come here, they learn so much about Korea. And this is us wanting to come here. What about us inviting Koreans to come to the Philippines too? So I can share with you the very hard work that the tourism office is doing. But then on that account, apart from tourism, apart from learning about the Philippines, how inviting are we as a country, for example, compared to other countries when not much of their savings would go into airfare, for example, and hotels and food. So I hear from the traveling Koreans, traveling to the Philippines is expensive compared to Vietnam, compared to Thailand. Is it that Vietnam is well supported by its government that it can bring its prices down, so much so that other countries won't be able to compete? So there's that kind of competition or marketing strategy that Vietnam has put in, and we're not able to compete in that regard. So there are actually so many things we can do on our own, maybe our own actuations, our own dealings with Koreans. Maybe through you can become instruments. It doesn't have to be institutions, it can be individuals dealing with the Koreans and the foreign nationals who are also living here in Korea. So we say we're hospitable, we are friendly, but until they visit the Philippines, they won't know that if we don't show that to them. So it comes actually from us. We are able to show that to them. We're able to make them experience what it's like to be a Filipino. So I guess that's the bulk of what I have to say. But maybe Geoffrey has other ideas of how to.
I think we have been discussing this. What's the benefit or value of learning Philippine language? Why is it the enrollment in Vietnamese language is much higher than Filipino? And as mentioned earlier, Professor Kim Romeo, once you learn the Filipino language, you are actually also learning the English language, 2 in 1. But what is the objective of a Korean to learn the language? I think it's more important for them to also know our side, the psychology of Filipino, understanding us. It's not only the language, because of course, if you learn something, there's something at the back of their mind. They want to be an expert of Filipino maybe, or an expert of Southeast Asia, exploring the possibilities that how could I do business with a Filipino? How can I understand? How can I have a good relationship with Filipino? How to establish business in the Philippines? I think I don't have any comment on the micro program, but it's more focused on the language. The micro program is more focused on the language, and we have a lot of people-to-people exchange programs already. We can bring them to the Philippines. We can have the DOT tourism. But I think, from my perspective, business and economics perspective, I think we can also dig deeper into why we don't have a lot of interest from the Korean side. Number one is because I would like to bring back the economy or the investment side. We have the very high-skilled young population. We speak English. We have a huge population of young people, and yet we don't maximize. We don't utilize our people to work for these industries. Maybe we don't need to compete with Vietnam for the factories. Maybe we need to upscale, or maybe we need to. We can have an investment that is higher than a factory or investments from that manufacturing. Maybe we can graduate from that. Maybe we can use our mental or analytical skills, those kinds of investments. Because look at the difference of the investments going to Vietnam and Singapore. Singapore is service, finance, and insurance, those kinds of investments. To Vietnam, It's factory. It is low skill jobs. What about us? We have high intelligent, smart Filipinos, and yet we don't have. We don't need to compete with Singapore and Vietnam. We just need to find our niche. And if you may, if you allow us, I also ask and plead our students that please cooperate with us. You can do research with us and present to Ambassador our findings so that we know which investments we need to target from Korea. Because they're just waiting for us. They also don't know where or what can we offer them. So through those research and studies that we can do together, maybe we can invite more. So how can we invite what is the projects that we can ask the Koreans to learn more the Filipino language? Yeah, we have the organization called AFEC, the Association of Filipino Educators in Korea. We also go around Korea to promote the Philippines. I think in a more deeper discussion later, we will have, sorry about that. We will have more time to discuss. Thank you. sorry about that.
Thank you very much, Professor Jeffrey. I'd like to speak in English, and again I will speak in Korean for Korean audience here. Because this room we have many Filipinos here, right? Filipino community. I have some intention to invite you here because in Korea we don't have any Filipino programs in any universities. Since you are living in Korea, some of you married with a Korean spouse. We try to establish Philippine studies in this university. So we have to promote it, and I think it's very important to establish Philippine studies in Korea for mutually understanding. And also I think if you have kids, probably for their futures is also very important. Why the Korean universities ignore the Filipinos so far? Because they believe that the Filipinos speak English, so we don't need to study their language. But the language is the kind of entrance to their societies, getting interested in their culture and their societies, right? So I think we have to promote. I have some forums about how we can establish Philippine studies abroad. The local community is very important. Filipino communities, they have to promote, support, cooperate. So that is how Philippine studies abroad, they make the develop and establish in Hawaii, in Germany. So you have to really involve in this. Our Professor Cecil Hwang is teaching Filipinos in our university. So probably you will support her and send your kids to the university. That is my expectations. For Koreans, allow me to speak in Korean. 여러분들 혹시 뭐 영어가 잘 이해가 잘 안 되는 분이 혹시나 있을 것 같아서 제가 얘기하는데, 지금 필리핀 지금 특강 시리즈를 우리가 하고 있는데 지금 오늘이 이제 마지막 시간이에요. 우리 학교에 여러분들 브로셔 보면은 마이크로 전공이 있어요. 필리핀 마이크로 전공. 이게 이제 부학점으로 돼 있는데 이 필리핀 대사관에서도 많이 지원을 해주고 있어요. 그래서 저희들이 이 강좌를 듣는 학생들을 방학 때 필리핀에 데려가서 연수하는 이제 그런 프로그램도 저희들이 만들려고 하고, 여러 가지 지원 프로그램이 많이 있을 거예요. 이게 뭐 부학점밖에 안 되니까 여러분들이 이 필리핀 마이크로 전공을 등록해서 들으면 좋을 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 우리나라에서 이걸 가르치는 데가 여기밖에 없어요. 다른 대학 우리나라 어느 대학에도 없기 때문에 여러분들이 필리핀어를 잘 배워놓으면은 여러 가지 유익하게 많이 사용할 수가 있을 겁니다. Right. So this is it. Thank you.
So last two questions.
I would. I'm so sorry. I just said that.
Hello everyone. My name is Matthew Maporang, and I am currently a graduate student of Dong An University here in Busan. I would just like to add a little bit of comments in regards to culture, tourism, and research and development, where I'm interested at. So what I think we can suggest is in terms of research, engineering, and development, let's adapt the Koreans' approach on how they do infrastructure programs. So, for example, interconnecting all of the roads in market to farm roads in countrysides or in the cities and in different provinces. Because if we have like a very good infrastructure system by adapting the Korean technology of their way of building and constructing, and also including mass transportation systems like metro subways or express trains like the bullet trains, and also good road systems. There's a big chance that a lot of Koreans will be more interested in traveling multi-city. Say, for example, you want to go to Yosu from here, you can take the bus directly. Why? Because here in South Korea, I've noticed that they have a very good interconnected expressway.
Sorry, Ambassador, because some of students, they have to leave because our time is over.
I have one more slide. I just want to respond.
One more slide.
One more slide.
So after...
I just want to comment. Sorry, just one. I just want to say that, after the war, if you remember, the Philippines helped Korea build some of its roads and infrastructure. Yeah, so I think Korea followed us at that time. There was a time that Korea was looking at us. So, I mean, it's not too late for us to go back to where we started and then build from the time when we were actually the model of Korea. But let me go to my last slide. I'm sorry, I think many are still going to their next class. This is just a bonus, but I want you to listen to this because since this is an ASEAN lecture, I wish to share with you a bonus slide on our ASEAN priorities. So, in October this year, Malaysia officially handed over the ASEAN chairmanship to the Philippines. As the Philippines prepares to chair ASEAN in 2026, we have outlined our country's priority agenda and the theme that will lead the chairmanship. So just a few days ago, in Manila, the Philippines shared its theme, Navigating Our Future Together. ASEAN will focus on three priorities, namely peace and security, anchors, prosperity corridors, and people empowerment. The official ASEAN-Philippine 2026 logo and stamp reflect unity of the purpose and Filipino warmth. The ASEAN 2026 logo, composed of 4 core elements: the rice stalk, weave pattern, wave, and balangay, reflect unity of purpose and Filipino warmth. The ASEAN Philippines 2026 website will also be launched through the link that you see there, ASEAN2026.gov.ph. Participants to next year's ASEAN-related meetings and activities will experience the spirit of the Filipino people as the Philippines set the venues around the country, namely Manila, Cebu, Bohol, Boracay, Lawag, Iloilo, Tagaytay, and Clark. Each of these places will host ASEAN meetings and events that celebrate our diversity, showcase our culture, and advance our shared goals. During the chairship year, the Philippines aims to lead ASEAN in strengthening regional security, including maritime security, cybersecurity, counterterrorism, and the use of AI, while accelerating digital transformation, cross-border trade, and economic resilience, particularly for MSMEs. Climate action is another key pillar with focus on disaster risk reduction, renewable energy, and climate finance. Equally important is people-centered approach, promoting social protection, mobility, opportunities for women and youth, and support for migrant workers. Throughout, you will often hear our guiding principles across documents and speeches that ASEAN must be people-oriented, future-proof, and future-ready. The Philippines wants to build an ASEAN that is united in its diversity, a steadfast body that stands close forever to its principles and bold in its embrace of innovation, where technology serves humanity and where AI helps secure peace, prosperity, and people empowerment. Lastly, we take this opportunity to convey our warm welcome to Timor-Leste as the 11th nation joining the ASEAN. And finally, I don't want to miss this, but I'd like to share this with you. I've had this magazine in my table for a long time in a plastic envelope. I haven't opened because I'm so busy. This morning I opened it, and lo and behold, at the back of this magazine is BUFS. Maybe I was meant to come here, and then it guided me on the way here on the train. I read generosity and service. This is your university. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Proverbs 1, chapter 1, verse 7. A university exists for its students. Students' growth brings us glory. To fully support students in overcoming various obstacles, to make it possible for them to enjoy a happy campus life, to help them develop their talents and find their ways in life. We will devote all efforts to serve our students, and those are words from your president, Dr. Soon Hyung Chang of the Busan University of Foreign Studies. So as Professor Kim says, bring your children to study here in BUFS. Thank you and good afternoon.
네, 오늘 한국과 필리핀의 관계에 대해서 좋은 말씀 해주신 필리핀 대사님께 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 네, 그리고 늦은 시간까지 끝까지 남아서 특강을 잘 들어주셔서 감사하다는 말씀 다시 한번 드리고요. 학생들께서는 만족